Hallo und herzlich willkommen. Schön, dass Sie zuschauen. Ich spreche heute mit Loch Kelly und freue mich sehr, ihn hier zu begrüßen. Hello, Loch. Great to be here with you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Usha. Nice to be here with you and everyone else in the land of listening.
Yeah, it's great. Mein Name ist Usha Swamy. Ich bin vom Arbor Verlag und im Arbor Verlag erscheinen auch die Bücher von Loch Kelly. Loch Kelly hat mehrere Jahre in Asien verbracht. Er war beauftragt mit einem Forschungsstipendium, war in Indien, Tibet und Sri Lanka und hat dort den tibetischen Buddhismus, Advaita und Einsichtsmeditation studiert. Zurück in New York begann er als Meditationslehrer und Psychotherapeut zu arbeiten. Und es ist ihm ein Anliegen zu erforschen, und da arbeitet er zusammen mit Neurowissenschaftlern von berühmten Universitäten, zu erforschen, wie sich Gewahrseinstraining auf unser Wohlbefinden und auch auf unser Mitgefühl auswirkt. Sein Ansatz der Meditation nennt sich Mühelose Achtsamkeit, und dazu hat er dieses Buch geschrieben, Mühelose Achtsamkeit, der revolutionäre Weg zu einem erwachten Leben. Und dieses Buch wollen wir heute im Gespräch vorstellen. So, again, Loch, hello, and let's just start with the first question. What is effortless mindfulness?
Sure. So the first time I heard the term effortless mindfulness was from a teacher in Tibet whose name was Toku Urgyen Rinpoche. And he just said there are two kinds of mindfulness: deliberate mindfulness and effortless mindfulness. So I was curious as well, what is that? And so he showed us a little pointing technique, which is a way of moving awareness immediately to discover an effortless awareness that's already here, that's the primary dimension of where we're aware from. So what it feels like is not that effortless mindfulness doesn't mean you make no effort. It means that with a small effort, you can immediately discover an awareness that's effortlessly aware. And it feels like people who have experienced a flow consciousness or being in the zone, you feel interconnected and able to access your memory and information without self-referencing. So it's a experience I think everyone has had, but don't know how to access it directly.
Okay, and you often, and also in the book, you describe effortless mindfulness in comparison to what you call deliberate mindfulness. What is the difference?
Yes. So again, I'm taking that definition from this Toku Urgyen Rinpoche, this Mahamudra and Dzogchen tradition of direct practice. So most people know what's called mindfulness, coming primarily from the Theravada or Vipassana, sometimes called insight meditation, tradition of Sri Lanka, Burma, Nepal. So this mindfulness tradition that many people practice and has great benefits for stress reduction is practiced by using kind of one-pointed attention, watching an object like your breath from your small sense of self down to your breath. And what happens is you deliberately, intentionally try to maintain a focus. When your mind wanders, you just gently bring it back to that focus. And I'll talk a little about the neuroscience later, but basically that experience is traditionally in the Mahayana and Tibetan tradition, the deliberate mindfulness is the preliminary practice. It's the first attempt to calm and focus in order to go to effortless mindfulness, which is more awake consciousness. In the effortless mindfulness direct path tradition, the premise that's different is rather than having to develop a skill, once you simply calm and focus in just a preliminary way, however long it takes, then you shift your awareness into an awake consciousness that's already installed. Yeah, so the difference in the premise is the awakeness that we're seeking is already inherent within us, each of us equally, and is available as a background awareness that we can shift from a chattering mind rather than just calming it with deliberate mindfulness and then kind of living from a small self that's more calm and less stressed. We literally shift to another level of mind and another level of identity that's more like a flow consciousness, more like a loving presence that we've all felt in our best of times or peak experiences. But this is moving directly into not a peak experience, but getting a peak of a natural, already available, awake consciousness that can then move our hand from there or use words from there. So we begin to live and awaken life from a different level of mind and a different level of identity.
And how can we learn to have this state of effortless mindfulness, this flow?
Yes. Yeah. So I guess there's some training involved and some initial map or description, and then it's kind of like approach it in almost a scientific way, is give the theory, give the map, and then give a set of experiments, and then have you do the experiments, and then report the results for yourself. So the book I've just written, The Way of Effortless Mindfulness, it gives all of those things. And there's a series of what I call mindful glimpses, which help to immediately learn the felt sense of how to shift awareness from kind of a small sense of being located in the middle of our head, looking out of our eyes, which is our usual constellation of consciousness or small self or small mind, and then to either have awareness drop from head to heart space or open to a more spacious open mind, and then be aware from this more open sense of spacious and pervasive awareness that is equally embodied and open-minded, open-hearted, and then it's also feels interconnected, like a flow, like living or moving or talking in a flow consciousness, so that it's not just a passive state or a spaced out state, but it's a spacious, embodied, interconnected, and it has a quality of kind of unity or feeling of joy or love that people use the word heart, open-hearted awareness, because there's a friendliness or a natural loving kindness that arises.
And this shift of awareness, don't I have to be skilled at practicing this deliberate kind of mindfulness to be able to do this shift of awareness and to have this effortless mindfulness?
Yes. Yes. I mean, traditionally, in a more progressive path, you would do this, you would join a monastery or then live in a cave maybe, but you would train in deliberate practices, and then depending on the tradition, whether it's insight meditation or Zen or Tibetan, you would work your way up, learning kind of the talks. You would learn the talks and the theory and the philosophy, and then do these practices and then move to this effortless mindfulness. Or it would start to show up if you were in longer retreats. However, in the direct path, which comes from kind of interesting period of time in North India, which is called Sutra Mahamudra, this practice was done by lay people, and they would teach it to each other. And there was a whole report of this culture and this time of people awakening and living this awakened life through this direct practice. And that's kind of what I'm finding that people are able to do, especially when I bring in some contemporary neuroscience and some contemporary psychology to deal with the emotional content. What I find is that it is helpful to do as much as you need just to calm or soothe your body, and then to feel that your nervous system actually has moved from a kind of fight or flight to a parasympathetic, relaxed calmness. And as soon as you do that, then the vessel or the vehicle of your body is calm enough in order to open and embody from this greater awareness.
And to make it, to give an example, let's take the body, and in the deliberate mindfulness tradition, we have the body scan, and it's a classic mindfulness practice. So, in the book, you have this, you call it embodiment scan.
Yes.
Maybe we can take this to show the difference. What is the embodiment scan?
Yes. Yeah. So one of the things I do in the book, The Way of Effortless Mindfulness, is I take each of the traditional classic deliberate mindfulness practice, and I start with it, and then I take it to the next couple steps. So I'll do a one-pointed focus on your breath. Notice that it's in one area of your body. And now notice, where are you focusing from? So now you're the one who was focusing, that was the observer, now becomes observed. And then opening one more step to be aware from a more spacious awareness of the mindful witness and the focuser and your breath. And in doing that, that's a simple description, but when you do that, you realize, oh, that's the first shamatha practice, calm abiding. Oh, that's the mindfulness of what is contents of consciousness, and then opening to this spacious, pervasive, awake awareness view, you can experience that you're not in this witness protection program, as I call it, or you don't have to stop at a detached, disembodied witness, but you can even open further in order to become embodied. So that feeling that you're not doing a body scan from here, of be aware of your chin, be aware of your shoulder from this same focuser, point of view, doer, meditator, but you literally unhook your awareness. So you're aware, you decenter, and you're aware of your jaw from your jaw. You're aware of your throat from within your throat. And then you can feel, maybe for the first time, that you become aware of your body from within your body. And what you feel is that the center of consciousness, as someone like Dan Siegel talks about, that your intelligence or the knowing is not located in your brain, it's located in your whole body, that your awareness can be aware of your body the kind of effervescent sensation, aliveness, the space, and the awareness directly from within. And then you can feel your belly, you can feel your whole body directly from within your body without orienting to thought or without using this point of view, which is kind of the small self or the ego center. But you shift out of that into this body and then open to feel this open mind, open heart that's equally inside and out. And what that does is it opens you to this, how you feel when you do things you love, like walk in nature, do a sport. You're embodied and interconnected, not from a small mental self, but from being in the now. Time slows down. You feel kind of a joy in doing whatever you're doing. You feel connected to nature. And this can be done when you learn how to do it directly. You can be embodied and open-minded, open-hearted in the midst of the city, as well as, the usual place you go to enter this through a certain doorway of nature or sport or gardening or something like that.
Thanks. That's a wonderful description. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you already mentioned the glimpses, like these little exercises or practices that are throughout the book. What is the best way to work with all these glimpses, with all these practices? Yeah.
So, the book is meant to be just like an instruction manual, just enough description or reorientation to be able to practice it or do it. So there's a little different approach. And the word glimpse, the premise is that you're not having a meditation state of peace and joy and then returning to ordinary consciousness, but you literally have a glimpse of this awake consciousness that now you're aware from. And that then you can realize, oh, that other state that I thought was me, that's a state of mind that I'm now aware of from a greater open-hearted true nature or nature of mind. It's called bodhicitta, this feeling, but it's a feeling almost like riding a bicycle. So you'll glimpse it and then you're experiencing it. You're not doing it intellectually. You're not using imagination. You're literally dropping, opening, and including. But what's moving, what's dropping is awareness itself that opens to know itself. So I could do a little short glimpse practice here that many people like. It may or may not work. What I find is that there are many doorways and different learning types. So I provide some more kinesthetic, some more auditory, some more visual to start, to find your own door, to let go into this awake consciousness. So let me do this little glimpse. So the premise in effortless mindfulness is that the existential root of suffering is this feeling that on all levels we're a separate sense of self. And we're kind of located in this small thought going to thought, which creates this self-referencing mini me that feels like I think, therefore I am. So we have that as our kind of philosophical support for that view. So the view of effortless mindfulness is that there's a thinking without a thinker. There's a awareness-based knowing rather than a thought-based that can use thought, and thought is actually like a wave arising made out of awareness. And so that little sense of self is actually an ego function, and it doesn't have to become an ego identity. So when you're identified or looking at the world from there, the word dukkha or suffering is translated as perpetual dissatisfaction. So, you know that feeling? Anybody of perpetual, like, yes, but, perpetual dissatisfaction? And the relief of that is not to just have positive thoughts or more loving kindness, because it's a dualistic mind. It will always be polarized parts. So the more you try loving kindness, there'll be another part that'll come and say, yes, but. So the sense is, can you, when that little small self, it's always trying in a positive way to make you happy, but it's limited. They call it ignorance or, limitation, or so it's basically trying to solve a problem of what's going on inside. Is it okay? What's going on outside? Am I safe? And that problem solving little self that's perpetual running is perpetually dissatisfied. And if we can just shift out of that as the center and then include everything, we may have a glimpse of this other dimension of consciousness that we know to be awake consciousness. So that's the theory, and here's the experiment. So it's just a simple inquiry, and you can just see whether you can let your awareness open to something that's here and new. And here's this simple inquiry. What's here now when there's no problem to solve? So just understanding that with your mind, what's here now when there's no problem to solve, then letting the problem solver relax, and then see what's here. Where are you aware from? When that small sense of self relaxes, what's the felt sense of what's here when there's no problem to solve? What's it like to rest as this awareness-based knowing, alertness? And then what's it like as this awareness-based knowing? What's the relationship to sensation and your body without having to create a small self or oriented thought? And then what's the relationship from this open-minded, open-hearted awareness to everything in the world? So equally aware inside and outside from this field of awareness that's more open and dropped and inclusive and interconnected. So you may know this feeling from kind of climbing to the top of a hill or a mountain, looking at the sky, or going to the beach or river. What if it were available? And then notice that this brings a natural calm and focus that is even a deeper calm than the shamatha one-pointedness, and is even a different kind of focus, because you're focusing from a flow consciousness, which feels like you could respond, but you're not prepping or self-referencing in order to be ready to do something. You're just like a Tai Chi master, here, available, safe, open, and able to respond rather than react. So that's a little, so just check and see what that's like for you. And when there's audios of this you can listen to, and some YouTubes and things. So just feel what that's like for you. it's a change of view. And the key is it's immediate, it's this far away, it's dramatically different. And yet in Zen, they call it ordinary mind, because it's just like, okay, it's me, I'm here. It's just absent of worry, fear, or if there's fear or worry, it's aware of it, not identified with it. So everything's welcome, but no need to contract or defend or repress or fight or flight from whatever arises from this new or greater capacity.
So interesting, this shift of awareness, like you always use your hands to describe it, because I could feel this to go from the head up or down, and a feeling of warmth and vividness. So
Yes.
Is this a word in English, vividness?
Yes, that's beautiful. That's vividness, perfect. Yeah, that's my translation. So there's no need for me to, translate from English to German. It's like, so just drop. Right. So that's the direct experience. Yeah.
It's a universal language.
Yes, the universal language. That's right.
Okay. So let's come back to the book again, maybe for two last questions. In the book, you also describe traps and detours, which are, I think, really helpful for readers. Maybe you can just name the most important pitfalls if we start on this way of effortless mindfulness.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll say that, and maybe I'll mention some of the psychology as well, unless that's the next question. But I'll say that.
Just mention it, because
Okay, good. So, some of the traps are one of my teachers, Swamy Rinpoche, who's the son of Toko Urgen Rinpoche, who was that first teacher I mentioned. So Sokni Rinpoche, or Sony Rinpoche, it's not pronounced. He said when he came to the United States, he goes, "Why is everyone doing stupid meditation?" So if you just do this one-pointed calm meditation, that's all you do, you kind of get into a kind of sauna. I don't call it stupid meditation, but I call it sauna meditation. Or so you just get into hello, I'm very relaxed and calm. But then as soon as something happens in your life, boom, you're out of it and you're back in. So that's one of the traps, is just doing preliminary practices and de-stressing, but not upgrading. So, and then another one is people who go do what's called a spiritual bypass, or too transcendent or too spaced out. So you can get too spaced out, you can get too blissed in if you do like hippie happy chanting, or too calm and only calm. So those are states or preliminary practices that help start, moving from agitated, chattering mind, neurotic thinking and fear, shame, and worry. Then you can calm that, or you can step out of it into more pure awareness. Some people, other trap would be getting caught halfway in kind of a pure awareness. You're aware of pure awareness. Some of the non-dual practices from certain traditions, you remain as pure awareness, and that's the goal or the end, which then the description is, okay, who I am is this pure awareness, and everything else is illusion or a movie appearing on the screen of awareness. But I find that those students who come to me are kind of depersonalized, and they usually come and say, I feel very happy, but my partner thinks I'm spaced out. What do you think? And I say, I agree with your partner. But it's getting caught in what I call the witness protection program, which is that you're disembodied and you have this awareness. So continuing on to the integrated fullness of, in Buddhism, non-duality is not non-dual pure awareness. It's ultimate reality and relative reality are not two. So they're the same. They're the inseparable pair of awareness and aliveness. So that's more embodied and interconnected and in this flow. So then the other trap is not dealing with our emotions or psychology, not only our body, but our psyche, our early childhood trauma just starts to come up for most people. And you can try to escape it, or it can kind of take you over. And some people have initial awakenings. They wake up, but they don't continue to grow up. So you can't grow up all the way, I don't feel, unless you wake up. But once you have initial wake up, please continue to grow up. And the growing up gives you the capacity from this spacious true nature, or self with a capital S, or no self, or open-hearted awareness. You can now be aware of the hurt parts, the traumatized parts, the manager parts that are like the ego types, or the protectors that are fighting and flighting inside or outside. And you can see, oh, these are parts of me. Oh, so you can move. I have this series of moves from emotions, but basically, rather than I am sad, you start to realize, oh, there's a part of me that's sad. So you're not denying it, but you're not identified with it. So you feel it, and then you start to relate in this kind of parts-based psychology, which is fairly simple to learn. And I've co-taught with this guy, Dick Schwartz, who created a system called Internal Family Systems, but there are other parts-based similar systems from Gestalt to others that use attachment theory. But this parts-based seems to really help, because there are parts that kind of protect against opening to this awake consciousness that are scared and say, don't do it. That's depersonalized. That's you're spacing out, or don't lose your mind, or don't become nobody. And then once you realize, okay, that's the resistance, let me be aware of them, thank them for trying to protect me, and now ask them if you can just open and just go to the kitchen to get some food, and then I'll be right back. And now what do you think of this? And then those parts will say, oh, that's pretty good. So you start to work both in order to access this awake consciousness. And then once you are aware from the awake consciousness, which is open-hearted and loving and nurturing, you can start to bring up and meet these more traumatized parts. I've worked with people with complex trauma who are, have long histories of abuse. And once they are able to be aware of who they are, essentially, they have the capacity to heal and meet these traumatized parts. So no matter how, there's some, myths, I call them mistakes. I don't know, that's kind of, maybe it's an English kind of play on words, but mistakes, that there's myths that you have to do it gradually, you can't be direct, that you have to have an ego before you lose it, so that people who are have had trauma or shouldn't be doing spiritual practice. And there are some studies that with deliberate mindfulness that Willoughby Britton did, where if you just deconstruct the ego, people do get flooded with unconscious. But my experience is here, what we're doing is we're opening and finding the solution before we come back to the problem. So you find that which can bear the unbearable, and then are able to be with this, these parts of us that have been holding shame or fear or repressed contents, and then they self-liberate, or they are met and listened to and healed, and they kind of shake through. So adding this, psychological neuroscience and wisdom traditions is really what the book, The Way of Effortless Mindfulness, but it's mainly a practical way to do this. So all of this is covered in that.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
It was a pleasure. And thank you for, again, for this wonderful book with many practical inspiration. And thank you for the time, for the interview.
Thank you so much, Usha. But pleasure to meet you.
Yes, for me too. Thanks.
Okay, bye, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Und dann auch nochmal von mir allen vielen Dank, die zugehört haben und zugeschaut haben. Vielen Dank.